inside ourselves where we feel our oneness, where we feel that inner light, that wholeness, that oneness of God. Just take a few deep breaths together, just in, and out. And we just prepare ourselves for these amazing, amazing lessons that we're going to receive tonight and the sharing that we're going to do together. We are so grateful. We are so blessed to be together, to be learning this amazing, amazing information. And tonight's class being all about that inner light that is in all of us. As we learn to connect with that light, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Christine, and I'm just going to release this invocation into the law, knowing that the perfect situation for our class, the perfect invocation for our class is out, and I release this word into the creative law, and so it is. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you. Okay, I ask everyone to bring your attention as you're seated to your root. And I'd like you just to imagine breathing in through the root chakra. Breathing in, opening up that root, bringing that crystalline core energy up in from the earth. And then release it back. Breathe in and out a few times here until you feel that connection and that groundedness. And then I'll ask you to bring your arms up, reach up, clap your hands together above your head, and then rub those hands together, generating energy, remembering the energy that we are. Bring your arms or your hands down to your chest, right in front of your heart center. And feel that light, that energy. Remember that we are light and feel it in your body. Let's take another breath, bring those arms up. Breathe in, clap those hands together, bring them back down. Rubbing the hands together. Feel that energy building between your hands and feel it in your heart center. One more time. Breathe in, hands together, and bring the hands down to the heart. Feel the energy and the light in every cell in your body. And then you can imagine this in your mind, or you can actually do this with your hands. But bring your hands to the crown and gently massage or tap, or just imagine that your hands are doing this. We'll do a chi massage, and we'll bring that energy, that awareness to the crown. And as you do this, you'll feel in your body everything light up and activate. Go ahead and bring your hands down to the base of your skull. Feel that energy shoot from the crown all the way down to your feet. Bring those hands to your forehead and your eyes. in your cheeks, lovingly activating, touching, or imagining that energy in these areas. And then to your ears, feel all of the sensations of our light being. And then to the front of your neck, your throat. And then the back of your neck, every part of yourself. So we're going to brush off any energy or anything that doesn't feel that it's of the highest vibration of light. So we'll just flick it right off your shoulders. You can tap, you can brush, whatever feels right to you, or just imagine that you're doing that. To the front of the upper chest, to the back, shoulders, arms. Brush the energy through each arm. And then back to your heart. Bring a smile to your face and feel that heart energy emanating from the center of your being, connecting with all other beings. Feeling that source energy moving and working in as and through you, through that heart chakra, heart center, the sacred heart. And then move down to the solar plexus and do the same massage to this area. Feel the warmth and the energy and the light, the lightness moving down to the solar plexus. Bring your hands to the back side of this solar plexus area, front and back and sides, activating the entire area. And then down to the root. If you want to tap your sacrum, if that's helpful, then you can do that. If anything that feels it needs to be brushed, and then come down to the legs, and we'll sweep our hands all the way down the leg to the foot, and then back up the back side of the leg. So down the fronts of the legs, over the bottoms of the feet, and then back up to your hips. Do this a couple more times. Always mindful of your breathing. Work with your breathing. Bring awareness up through that root chakra. Bring the breath up through the root. Last thing is we'll tap the bottoms of each foot, just a gentle tap. So we've brushed off anything that is an illusion of darkness, anything that isn't feeling that it's of light. We're light and we know this and we feel this and we feel it in every cell and every particle in every energetic field. So with that, I ask you just to take another nice deep breath up through the root chakra, back out again. And let's find our center and take a few moments of meditative time, quiet time. awareness back to your physical body, back to the present moment. Remembering your light, your connection to Source, the light of the world. Take that with you through class and into tomorrow, through the week. Always remembering that connection is there. Thank you so much.
I know, it sort of feels like everybody wouldn't mind hanging out there for quite a much bit
That was
longer.
amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Well, thanks, Teresa, for stepping in at the last minute, impromptu, to cover for Suzanne. And actually, Teresa, you were scheduled for next week, so I'll just switch you and I'll put Suzanne in for next week. And yeah, that worked out good. And beautiful meditation, Christine. It's always nice to have something different, a body-centered experience. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So there must be a lot going on, because I've had lots of emails and texts from people. There are probably about 7 people who won't be in class tonight. A few who aren't feeling well, a couple who are working late, and one who we all know is on her as a tax accountant. This is her last day today. Sue Ellen said, I don't know if I'll make it. She's, I don't know if I'll make it through this day, let alone to class. So we'll just hold her, as today is the last day of all that. But it's good to be with everyone. Couple of things. Oh, let's read. Actually, let me just say a couple things first, and then we'll do our purpose and objectives. As far as homework goes, because Simon is away, usually each of us do half the class every week, and so I'm going to make every attempt to try to cover his half, but I haven't done that yet, so there will likely be a delay for some of you in getting responses to your homework. And I realized, and he realized before he left for his trip, that he did not complete his half of the homework for week 17 and 18. So if you're waiting for that, that's why. And if possible, I as a gift to Simon and you, I'm going to even try to get to that, so that he won't have to go all that far back when he comes back. So, but just know that, and I'm trying to do a little bit of double duty here for him. And let's see, the other thing is, remember, everybody needs to register for the retreat by May 1st. We got an email from Misha Brigham saying that about half the class has registered so far. So make sure that you get that taken care of by the 1st of May, because I don't know what she's going to do for people who register after that date. I'm not sure, because I think she said she's going to close the link. So if you have any concerns about registering by the 1st, please be in touch with her. Deanna, do you have your hand up about something?
Yes, I just received, when I received an email with the link to register, I tried to register, but it asked me like some password or something like that. So I couldn't do it.
Katie knows about that.
Well, I was trying to look up the password and I couldn't find it either. I will be able to. I did it really quickly on my phone. Because
That was a long time ago that we sent that link out.
That's why, and I think she might have a different link, the one that she was sent.
So Katie, so Deanna,
I think I can do it manually.
Or she's going to look that up for you and send you. The rest of you who have registered and went on were able to do that, yes? We're able to do that, okay.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it was because we did that manually.
Right.
And I'll find out.
Okay, so if you haven't, May 1st, it's coming up, sort of quick. So again, and if you need to talk to me about it, or, find all the finances part of it goes through Misha. So be sure to be in contact with her if you have any concerns there. Let's see. Okay, I think that's just the quick little things I wanted to remind you of. Okay, Katie, go ahead with our objectives and our purpose.
Okay, so the purpose of Class 23 is to discover and unite with that inner light of oneness, wholeness, and unlimited creativity. Also, the objective, let's see, there's 3. First, breaking out of the old shell of habitual thinking based on experience. That's a big one. Surrendering to the truth, as God is light and energy, so too we light and energy. And third, opening to the light, the divine creative urge, pressing against us to be expressed. Good stuff.
Thank you. So before we dive into this week's material, I wanted to see if there was anything that wants to be shared, anything a lot of you did post in the news forum, which again, it's really, it's part of your class participation to post in the news forum. So if you're not doing that, please do that. Yes, Lance?
I just want to say I absolutely loved this reading for the last week. From the Science of Mind chapter to this thing called You, and even the Principles of Healing. Like, I absolutely loved it all. The workbook. I love the mystical union with God stuff. It's just, if there's anything that jazzes me up, that's the stuff that jazzes me up. So
that's great. Thank you.
That's all.
Teresa, I see you have something in the chat room. So the homework is earlier now, correct? What does that mean?
What I always had read that the homework was due by the date and time of the class, but now I see that it's actually due a day earlier, which makes perfect sense.
It's not. How those dates got somehow messed up in there. In fact, I think it was Deborah who emailed me earlier and said the due dates in the assignments are not accurate. I don't know. I had a big, huge learning curve on how to do everything before assignments. That's not one of the things that he showed me. So don't pay attention to those. The date due is the date of the class. That's when the date of your homework. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And Deborah, thank you for your, just as an example, Deborah said, hey, where do I submit my practitioner session report and my sacred service hour report for this term? She's like on top of things. So I had to open those up early for her for week class 29. Anyway, don't pay attention to those dates. Anything else? In terms of, a lot of you shared in your news forum about your experience of our ministry of prayer, and I don't know who it was wrote, I have never heard that many prayers done in such a condensed period of time. And that's what happens in our classes very often. You'll be doing a lot of that next year. You'll be really involved in ministry of prayer. In fact, they don't usually do it, I understand, in right, Katie? They don't usually do that in Prac 1, except you did. So you're ready for that because the Spirit moved me last week and said, you're ready for that, and warned you already. I mean, it was pretty extraordinary, wasn't it? Anything else from this week? Personal things, sharing, homework, prayer work, where you are in class? Anybody feeling overwhelmed? So, you can get support. You can talk to your prayer partners and call your practitioner and do your work around that. The last 5 weeks of class usually gets intense. I have some of the Prac 2 students I'm also working with, and they're feeling very intense right now too in the last 5 weeks of their class. And so just notice it, work with it, use some of Christine's techniques and breathing and all that. Teresa?
Yeah, I was sick this week for the first time in really many years with a very, very bad case of the stomach flu. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't. My first thought was, I can't do this. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a practitioner. Of course I could do this, just to be sick is difficult, but to be sick mindfully makes it so much better. Oh my gosh. To stay in my body, kind of like to say, okay, yeah, I feel like crap, but you know what? I've got this. I'm treating, I'm praying, I'm one with God. I've got this. God has got this. And I'll be honest, that's the first time, even with brain cancer, that I've really embraced that fully, which is, wow, thank you, God. What a great lesson for the brain cancer, So I was very, very grateful for that. And I agree with Lance. I mean, this week's reading was so fabulous, so fantastic. And even being sick, I was like, reading, but it made me feel better to read this stuff. So thank you. That's all.
Beautiful. Thanks, Teresa. All right. Any other personal sharing before we launch into our summary questions? Anything else? Yeah, Alexandra?
Thank you. I'll be brief. So we got to know some of our neighbors in Mexico. We're traveling back. We're in the motorhome, and we had a dinner on Saturday night. And it turns out that the lady that lives immediately behind us is a spiritual healer. We talked very briefly because she had several people over for dinner, but she's familiar with our teaching. And we did this game. She got coat hangers. We were talking about how you wish for water, and we've had that experience because we're realtors, and so that's how we've helped some people identify water sites on their property. And so we all took turns holding on to these L-shaped coat.
Alexandra, we lost you. You're frozen. Oh, she left us in suspense. We have to know what happened. Sharon? You're on mute, dear.
Yeah, if she comes back, I'll yield to her. But
oh wait, no.
I moved to share my week. I got to see an ex-boyfriend last Friday, which was really cool. And by Sunday, I came down with this horrendous cold that I have not been this sick in forever. My uncle died on Sunday, so my mom's brother. So that happened. My niece is getting married on Friday, and I'm supposed to be getting on a plane tomorrow. And it's just all a little much. And I didn't finish the reading because I've just been laid up. And you know, as Teresa was sharing, you know, I too have been just like, okay, this is conditioned. This is not the reality. But at the same time, I just have to honor it. And, you know, I just told my boss today, it's like, dude, I need to sleep. And I've been on my couch until I just got up. And I may be cutting out early. So if I do, I love y'all. That's my week.
Okay. Well, we're holding the light for everyone. All right. Well, it seems like Alexandria dropped off, and we'll just know she's going to get back on. Let's see. Any other sharing? Otherwise, we'll break into groups. And Kathy, is that your hand up?
So I've shared with a few people at the beginning that I get to see on, well, actually it's tomorrow, Jacob Lieberman, Luminous Light, is coming, and I'm going to hear him speak tomorrow.
That's great.
I'm excited. And then they're showing, Unity Temple is showing the movie Heal. It's a movie about John of God on Sunday afternoon. So.
Okay. Well, you've got lots of good things coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get going with the summary questions. And you have about 15 minutes. And I don't know who in their, oh, there's Alex, someone in their paper or in their news forum or someone said that one of the favorite parts about class was going into the small groups. It was like a surprise party, like every time they went into a small group and they never, was that you, Jennifer? I thought that was so cute, like surprise. All right, well, let's give Alexandra another moment here to see if we can get her back. All right, let's go. I'm going to set up the breakout rooms. Let's see, so we'll do 5 rooms. Okay, see you in 15 minutes. Have fun at your surprise parties. The summary questions. What practical benefit do we gain from living in the light? Oh, Leanne, you just have a big smile on your face. You must have the answer.
I don't have the answer, but
okay.
I will give you a answer.
Okay.
We can shine the light of principle on our darkest problems and find wisdom and enlightenment there.
That is the answer in the guide. So you did have the answer. Anything else anyone would like to add? Probably so much more that we all feel. All right. Why does Ernest Holmes advise us not to try to visualize this mystical light or make it appear? Teresa?
Ernest says that all forms of concentration to lead to the mystical light are nothing more than psychological stunts. You go, Ernest, which may or may not be spiritual. Jesus says the mystical light is inside yourself.
Oh, yes.
I know.
Anything anyone would add to that? Okay. What is the difference between a mystic and a psychic? And this is good to know for down the road, maybe on your licensing exam. Debbie?
A mystic is an enlightened being and a psychic is intuitive.
Okay. Anything else? Any more explanation about that? Maybe, okay. Kathy?
So I said that a psychic deals with human thoughts and a mystic senses divine presence.
That's great. Yes. Anything else anybody else would add? Yes, Jennifer.
If the mystic is tapping, or the mystic is sensing the atmosphere of God, the
Beautiful.
presence, and the psychic is picking up on information in kind of the subjective mental field or the energy field.
Beautiful. And which category do you all fall in?
Mystics.
The mystic. Yes, indeed. Because you are all tapping into the divine presence and the divine atmosphere. All right. And number 4, what do you imagine Ernest Holmes meant when he wrote, "We need to break out of our shell of monotony and discover within the light that lights every person's life"? So you know there's no right answer to this one. This is all your personal response to this question. Sarah?
I think that he meant that we need to break out of our limited thinking and to think with the mind of the divine, which encompasses infinite possibilities, whereas when we're thinking in the everyday way, we're just seeing a small slice of reality, and that can become monotonous because we tend to just perseverate on the same things over and over again. Whereas when we're thinking with the mind of the divine, we're seeing everything. We're seeing the whole infinite range of possibilities.
Beautiful. Yes, what else? Kathy and Alexandra.
So I said something to that. I said release those beliefs that keep us stuck, those false beliefs that keep us stuck in our old habits, and embrace the potential of all that we can be.
Beautiful. Alexandra?
I think what he meant is that when we hide in the shell of the monotony, it's we cannot let our light shine. And if we do let our light shine, and as the light of the world that we are, then we can truly be spiritual leaders. Spiritual leaders are not monotonous, and they do let their lights go before them.
Beautiful. It's an interesting word to use, isn't it? Monotony. You know, in this context. Because it's, when I read that, I thought, oh, okay, I'm not, maybe a word that I think about in more of like a conditioned state, right? You know, our conditions, limited condition state that comes from our conditioning. But it's interesting to think of that in that regard too. Anything else on this question? Yes, Carol.
Well, I also thought about it in the sense of the monotony of the human experience is dealing with the day-to-day and the how of everything. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And in this, in attending to the light, in being attracted to it and following it and being of it, we can release that monotony of the how. Because that's what, it's always having to figure everything out. To me, this is just for me, that sets me in a place of uncertainty, unrest, unquiet, but also boredom. Because it's like, why should I spend my time on that? You know, like what's important about that? So releasing the need to know how in the service of the why, which is divine development in my mind, is something that kind of releases me anyway when I get to that point from the monotony, because I can't really think about being the mind of God. That just is like, I mean, I know it's there, but in my physical body and in my And the way my brain works, I can't quite get there, but I can experience it in that release.
Nice. Beautiful. Anything else on this one? Okay. All right. We have done the summary questions. So,
Who's that on the phone?
Yeah, who is that on the phone? Who was at 7:03?
It's Alexandra.
Oh, okay.
I'm not on the phone.
Okay, that's right.
It's Sue Ellen.
Sue Ellen. Hey. Hi. We know it's tax day. We all been holding the light for you.
Thank you very much. My computer's doing something weird, so I'm joining by phone. Great to be here.
Well, you may.
Welcome.
Yay. All right. So I think we're going to talk about these together, and then maybe also in small groups. Let's just see how it goes. There's a few topics here, and we're not going to get to all of them. And I probably want to let you take a look at them. There's 5 different topics, and I'm hoping that you'll really be interested in the 2 from Principles of Healing, and I wrote some excerpts from that because I thought they were truly extraordinary. And I'd like to get to both of those, both A and E. And then the others, B, C, and D, as you feel moved to comment on those and feel drawn, we'll look at those too. So I'd love to start with A, and I'd love someone to read this so we can really hear it together. Deborah, go ahead.
Concentration is being centered, having a center within, into which you can gather yourself and abide. It is being aware of the light within you, which you may radiate outwardly wherever you wish. You have seen a searchlight operate. You may play it upon any object you like and leave it there as long as you like. And the longer it rests there, the more you see of that object and the more you understand it. The concentrated mind is the mind that is based and centered on truth, and can swing and play the light around by resting it wherever one's choice may be. The mind simply rests with the light and turns it where it wishes, for as long as it wishes. It is the light itself that brings understanding and draws to you those things upon which you have, hang on a second. That's it, that's all I got.
Upon which you have rested it.
Okay.
At the end. And then the topic for consideration is, how does our inward light amplify and increase our understanding and awareness? I felt like this analogy was very powerful in the whole bigger topic of living in the light. So I'd like to hear your responses, your reflections around that idea. Leanne.
I think that living in the light, and this really spoke to me, is that the more that I concentrate and I connect with the divine, that those answers are coming from grace, and they change my perception and the way that I'm seeing the certain object that I'm looking at. That's all I have to say on that. But it was just, that was such a great passage. Whew.
Mm-hmm. I know, it just struck me as connected with this, and the idea about, it's like we as a searchlight, right?
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking, like whatever we decide to shine the light of our awareness on gets amplified, right?
Right.
And not just for us, the searchlight doesn't just amplify it for us, our benefit, it's for everyone's, right?
Right.
And thus,
I mean, yeah. And I'll ask for answers from, the divine source, and I get an answer that is completely, it is just somewhere else. It came from somewhere else, Linda. And it increases my perception of what I'm seeing. It gives me a whole new perspective.
And in that lies the reason for us doing our spiritual practices.
Right.
I have this great story to tell you. When after my yoga class, I teach several yoga classes a week, and my students sometimes, I mean, I've been teaching so long that I've heard these things I hear it over and over again because I know, but when somebody sort of new says, wow, I don't know what happens when I leave this class, everything seems so amplified, like the lights look brighter and objects look sharper and my mind feels clearer. You know, what's happening to me? All I did was stretch.
Yeah, that's great.
And so the whole idea, obviously, is that there was a centering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Concentration is being centered. And in yoga and meditation and prayer and chanting and everything, all those things, we're centering, you know, we're finding an inner focus that allows us then to go out and see things through, whether it's through our eyes, seeing an amplification, or how we feel, the feelings, amplified feelings we have about everything. And, you know, it's called being, you know, in a certain regard, entranced and taken out of the trance of sort of the human mindedness and being entranced into the greater mind,
right.
You know, the infinite mind. So I get very excited about this topic because I think that this is our work personally, and it's what we have to offer those around us. You know, whether they're ever going to take a class, whether they're ever going to read any of these books, it doesn't matter, because if they come into our amplified light, they are going to feel something, and that's what draws them to you, which then gives you the opportunity to share and to teach and to let them know that whatever it is that you're seeing in me is available to you too.
Yeah.
So, all right. Other responses to this? What did it bring forth in you? What did it evoke? What did it make you think about as a practitioner student? Tina?
Well, I always think about centering, kind of is pulling inward and into your heart and connecting to divinity. And so I feel like that's really important as a practitioner, that we need to have that feeling, that connection, or else we're just saying words, and the words don't really matter. So it's the feeling, and that feeling comes through by grounding and connecting to the divine. And it's so easy to lose that feeling with the busyness of life. And so this was a really good reminder for me to reconnect back within.
Thank you. And it really connects with last week's work about how we bring the sacred into everyday life. And that's part of trying to stay in this sense of being centered and being grounded, is if we can bring that sacredness to things and keep ourselves, like Tina said, more in that space as much as we can. And, you know, all of you are in this training because, you know, yes, the benefit for yourself, but you all have a great yearning to, you know, bring this to others around you, to, you know, share the goods. You know, you want others' lives to be as, you know, wondrous and as amazing and as awakened as yours. And that's the yearning there underneath. I know every person that comes into this training, and I've seen it for 20 years, they think, oh, I just wanted to keep taking classes. You know, I wanted to keep studying. And this is a very rarefied field. You know, there's not that many practitioners. And it is, you have to have a deep yearning in you and a deep calling to want to bring this to the world. through your own commitment to living it and being it and embodying it, which is why this first year you're digging under every unturned stone. You're doing all this deep personal excavation so that you can be an opening and a transparency and an available for the divine to work through you, which you already are, but it's going to continue to increase. The more, and I can tell you these last 5 weeks when we're doing our memorial service and our eulogy and our, really coming face to face with, our ideas about mortality and all those things. Boy, if there was any stone left unturned, baby, it's not going to be by the time you finish this year. And it's good. It's like this mystical cleansing that's going on. And that's what, it doesn't always feel good, but inherently that it's taking you in the direction that you want to go in. Anything else about this quote? Yeah, Sarah.
I just wanted to tie together a couple of topics that we've been contemplating in this class, because this really crystallized for me as I was doing the reading this week on living in the light. Having just gone to a memorial service and then observed another friend in the hospital that's kind of laying between the realms right now, unconscious, I really started to think about the question of what is transition? What do we experience in transition and coming out of the body? And it occurred to me that state of dropping that physical barrier is just a more complete merger into that light state, becoming more conscious of it. I was reading the descriptions of the mystics about when they completely merged into that light and everything was illumined. And I started to think about, well, what happens when we transition? We go back into a full perception of that light without the barrier of the body. So for me, it really kind of came together and tied those two topics and gave me a real sense of peace around what does happen when we transition. And to me, it just feels like a return into that pure potential and a full perception of it, unlike what we have when we're in the physical body, unless we've reached a very high state of consciousness, and we can do that in the body, but it just seems like that's what happens at transition. And it really came together for me.
Nice. Thank you. Other reflections, insights? Yes, Carol. You're on mute, dear.
I highlighted a sentence in the document that stood out for me, and it's something that I felt like I've experienced a lot of my life, and that was, the concentrated mind is the mind that is based and centered on truth and can swing and play the light around by resting it wherever one's choice may be. Now, I have not experienced that from the spiritual perspective, but as a child, I knew that whatever I put my mind to, I was going to be successful in, whatever that was, you know? And that focus, I used to call it being focused. As I've gotten older, I've called it sort of just being in the flow with trusting that whatever I was concentrating on or focusing on, A, was worth that energy, and B, would deliver some result that I wouldn't even often be able to articulate. It's when I do my best writing, it's when I do my best speaking, it's when I do my best thinking, is when I concentrate that mind. So it got me thinking about what it really means to be centered on capital T truth. I mean, I can get it centered on lots of things, but centering it on the truth and then seeing what that power really is something I want to think about it some more, but it feels really powerful to me.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I also think that we underestimate the power of that concentration in us to be able to draw to us. I know some call it the law of attraction or whatever they might call it, but it's really the light that, like the moth being drawn to the light, it's that sense of resonance. I was just reading something earlier today by, oh my God, I can see his face. Anyway, one of the great teachers out there teaching, I'll get it. But, you know, the idea of resonance, and that to me is a lot of light. That's why, you know, people are drawn to the light. You know, they're drawn to wholeness. And our work that we're doing around all of this deep inner work that we're doing is creating that sense of embodiment of the wholeness of the light. And people are drawn to that, like a moth is drawn to the light. And that's who you are. And that's why people around you are drawn to you. And they want to know, you know, wow, you know, why aren't you so upset about the world falling apart? You know, why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you worried? Why aren't you full of anxiety? You know, well, it's because you have tools and you've been working on your awareness. And that's always, I love when people ask me that, well, why doesn't that bother you? You know, and I go, well, and have an opportunity. Those are always teachable moments. So you don't have to wait till you get a license to do any of that. And I'm sure it happens to all of you, whether, you know, it's at work or your family members or your children or just, you know, casual encounters. You know, I go out every day, and whenever I'm doing errands, I think, oh, I wonder where the teachable moments are going to show up today in my life. Is it going to be at Trader Joe's, or is it going to be in, you know, I just, to me, that's what makes life really exciting is who, and whether it's a verbal or nonverbal, what if I just am in a position where I just get to behold the truth? What if I get to be a beholder of truth and it's silent and they don't know that, but it's me, you know, showing up as the individual expression of the one. I think, oh, you know, where does spirit want me today? Oh, you know, I guess it wanted me to have a flat tire on my way home from from Los Angeles on Sunday. But you know what? Oh my gosh, I met the most amazing California Highway Patrol officer who just, I already talked to his director, you know, yesterday, because this guy needs to be acknowledged. I mean, he handled a situation. My AAA guy that drove up with his truck to change my tire was not okay. He might have been high, might have been drinking, I don't know what was going on, but he wasn't okay. And that California Highway Patrol guy just said, don't worry, I'll make sure you get home safe. And, well, you know, I could tell this guy has a weird vibe, you know. Anyway, on and on and on. So our days get full of those kinds of things if we're watching and we're expecting to, you know, where can I be a blessing? Where can I be blessed? Where can I see the handiwork of spirit going on all throughout my day? Anything else around this? Okay, let's go on. Let's see. We'll take about 5 more minutes before we go to break. I want to leave E for after the break when we have a little more time. There's a few here that come from your reading. Any of those? Let's read them together so we have them in the room. Somebody read B, a laser beam. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, wait, I have to bring it back. A laser beam cannot be seen until it illumines matter. A laser projected into a dark room will not be visible until a substance like a mist of water is sprayed into it. There is a relationship between the laser, consciousness, and matter, God stuff, which together produce light. How do you see the relationship between your consciousness and matter producing light or anything else in your life? Do I get to answer too?
Right. Go ahead. You want to go for it.
I just really liked this because I love the idea of thinking that consciousness is there and it's not visible until there's sort of like, I guess I thought of the matter as an opportunity for it to be seen. And the opportunity is like a situation or a condition or a, you know, event where, you know, we can come into it with consciousness, and then it's visible because it's juxtaposed with something that's happening that sort of allows it to be seen. So I love that idea of it being like a laser beam, and, you know, just thinking about it just being there. And when something crosses your path, you know, we think about like external conditions being things that are happening outside. But when those, you know, situations cross our path, that's where our consciousness is seen.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. A laser beam cannot be seen until it illumines matter.
Yeah.
I mean, so the conditions, you know, everything has to be right, you know. All the elements need to be there. Anything else around this one? How do you see the relationship between your consciousness and matter producing light or anything else in your life? I mean, obviously, you know, cause and effect, thoughts, we create our own reality, but let me hear some deeper stuff about it. Go ahead, Rebecca.
When I thought about this, I thought about how the phrase "faith without works" is and I kind of thought about that from the other side, though, and thought about how important it is, especially when you're new in this teaching, but not just when you're new. I think you need to always be in touch with demonstrations, because demonstrations are that physical manifestation of spirit touching our lives. And that's what I thought of when I read that piece, because like the laser beam that is not illumined until it touches matter, although all of us have probably had some surreal and highly spiritual experience that's hard to explain with words, the things that really resonate and the things that when you share in a group or when you write about are these demonstrations with matter. So they are the things that show up. They are the healings that occur. They are the abundance that comes our way. And that's what I thought of as I read them.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about this one before we'll probably take a break in just a moment. Anything else around the laser beam idea and our consciousness? And okay. All right. Well, let's take a little break. Let's meet back here. Anything else? Any other comments? Okay. Let's come back at 1:45 and have a nice little break. Pause the recording. So next week, page 23, 21 in your workbook, quite a bit of reading material. Again, do what you can. Your writing assignment that's going to be handed in is not listed in your workbook. It is to write a thought paper about choosing freedom, using your reflections and responses to the 8 questions that are listed in your workbook on page 24-6 as the focus of your paper. And so you'll really enjoy it because they're all personal questions basically about your life and about that topic. And I think it'll give you, it will be, you don't have to be creative and figure out what to write about. Those will be the focus of your paper. And then remember, week 26, your visit to a memorial service, a funeral, your own memorial service, and the book report on death and dying. Do class 26. I mean, obviously, you might end up handing one in the week after. We know that, but shoot for the week of the 26th. And then after that is, your term paper. So I know there's a lot going on right now, and some of you are catching up a little bit with your homework. I noticed there was 10 people that handed in their assignment for class today. But that's okay, because we're all flexible. And Simon wouldn't be able to grade them yet anyway, so it all works out. Kathy, you have your hand up?
So on the homework,
yes.
Do you want us to answer, do our thought paper on answering all of these questions, or picking one or two, or because it seems like reading them that you could do a lot of reflection on.
Well, it seemed to me that hold on, I'm gonna just take a quick look here. 23-21. 24-6. Hold on. You know, you don't have to answer every one. The ones that feel relevant to you, I guess that would be, you know, that you resonate with. Like, do you believe that your choices are limited by fear? You know, that isn't going to be a big, long explanation. You know, do you see the rules of society creating bondage, or is it designed for freedom? How often do you choose the familiar out of fear of the unknown? Just let intuitively, you know, go through these and use them as a focus. Some you may feel more drawn to writing more about than others, but try to touch on all of them. And thanks for asking, Kathy. I thought that would be more interesting than just answering the questions, you know, incorporating them into, you know, a sort of a reflection paper. And then, there we go. So then that's what's coming up. And catch up on, you know, everything else that you need to, as needed. So.
Are we still shooting for 250 words?
In the thought papers? Is that what Simon wrote?
That's what we did last term.
Yeah, whatever was in there before stands. Yeah, that doesn't change. I don't remember what he wrote down there, but whatever it is, it stays the same. Okay, so let's talk about E, because I want to make sure we get to that letter E from the Principles of Healing, and then we'll see which of the others. And the person I was thinking of about when I was talking about resonance, I was reading a blog by Greg Braden about resonance, and yeah, he's got a lot to say about things like that. Okay, let's read this one. Who wants to bring their voice into the circle and read E from the Principles of Healing? Sue Ellen?
There are many students of the healing art who are working on the plane of thought and belief, and so their minds are still doubtful as to where to put their attention in healing. Should we hold the suffering and discord in mind when we enter into the place of silence for the purpose of dissolving these falsities? Exactly where is the attention of the healer to be placed? The answer to these questions is always the same. In healing, we give our attention wholly to the truth. We do not hold any person or anything in mind. We ignore the condition and we ignore the patient. We turn to the divine, to God, wherein there are none of these things which we have been asked to heal. In the mind of God, there is no error or falsity or sickness or pain. Therefore, in healing, when you deal with the truth and are conscious of the mind of God, you only seem to touch and restore the mind of the patient. You only seem to touch and dissolve the error. because you know there was not anything to heal. In healing, you tell the truth to God. You do not talk to the person you are supposed to be healing. You lift the truth up to God. The word of God always goes upward. It always ascends. The word penetrates and heals only when it is spoken upward. And by speaking upward, we mean as the divine speaking to the divine. You yourself have no responsibility toward the case. If you think you have, you are wrapped up in your own personality. You must deal entirely with our own consciousness and never with the other person.
Okay, isn't that juicy? Remember our conversation that we had at some point earlier around, do we have to say the name of the person? Do we have to refer to what the condition is? I mean, we had that conversation. When I read this, I thought this is a great follow-up to that conversation. And what I really want, you know, the most important thing in this whole piece for me about us is in the third paragraph, which is, by speaking upward, we mean as the divine speaking to the divine. Now, I get goosebumps every time I read that, because this is the self-awareness piece, the recognition of ourselves as individualized expressions of the divine. So think about that. What is this treatment? It's one thing to say it's in our own consciousness. It's another thing to say it's the divine speaking with or to the divine. How does that land with you? Yes, Sarah. I can hardly sit in my seat. I am so excited about that.
I just wanted to share a little personal experience that I had with this. A few weeks ago, I was fairly ill. I had an infection and was laying in bed with a high fever and trying to treat for myself. And I started out doing exactly what you're not supposed to do. I was concentrating on how I felt, on the high fever, on the shaking, on the sweating, all the conditions basically. And I remember laying there thinking to myself, I don't think this treatment is going to work because I just don't believe what I'm saying, because my focus was out there on all the conditions that were happening in my body. But what happened eventually is I learned to find that divine center in myself and put my focus there. And when I put my focus there at the eye of the storm, so to speak, where everything was calm, everything shifted because there wasn't anything discordant at my center. All the conditions were just out there in the body. But when I found that space within where the breath is, where the divine is, and I had that conversation with the divine, just like what we're talking about, began to believe everything that I said, and the treatment became effective. It was really interesting. It was just a very vivid illustration for me because it was happening in my own body, so I could really feel the shift.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer?
So this made me just think again about how when we're doing healing, and I do a form of healing work with clients, and it's never me doing it. It's always happening through me. And that's what this reminds me of, the hollow bone we talk about in Reiki, or in the Akashic energy healing. I'm working with the field. I'm allowing the energy to work through me and to tap into that, and it's not me doing the healing. And so when I hear the divine speaking to the divine, that reminds me that it's not me, Jennifer, ego self, doing anything.
Beautiful. And what about these? This is a very strong language. We ignore the condition and we ignore the patient. I don't know that I would use those words. Ignore. How do you feel about that, Alexandra?
You know, this one sounds very simple, but what popped in my mind was the word namaste, which is the God in me honors the God in you. And that's all that I needs to be said, and all else falls by the wayside.
Mhm. Okay. What do you think about Jeffrey's words here? Ignore the condition and ignore the patient. Not just how do you feel about it personally, but in terms of your experience with people that you've been with and how they do treatment and what they're focused on and all of that.
Well, I think what they do and what I do too is when I do treatment, I look, the God in me connects with the God in them, and we're part of the universal whole of God. And so we don't see anything else. We just see the wholeness, the healing, the goodness, the wellness, and the perfection. And that's why I said namaste sounds very, very simple. It's just one word, but it to me, it just summarizes the entire experience. That's all there is.
Thank you. Deborah?
I actually like Alexandra's namaste, and I'm going to keep that in mind because I really was in tune with this reading in the books, and I found it extremely freeing. You're not responsible for everybody on the planet. It's just you and God figuring it out together, period. And so I love, again, namaste. That word's just going to pop into my mind, and then it's just me and God, and we're going on here. You know, we're going to do our thing and have a good old time at it. And when we're done, and everybody's great.
Yeah. Okay, everybody else, how do you feel about those words? Ignore the condition and ignore the patient. He had that sentence underlined in the book. And I want to know how it lands with you in relationship to what we've learned. Yes, Lance.
How I took it was he stressed a lot not to get, once you get your personality into it, right, then you get, you're sucked in, so to speak, right? And when I'm hearing him say ignore, I'm reading that as don't get sucked in. That's how I read it.
Yes, thank you. Christine.
I think similar to Lance, just that it's probably hear some background, sorry, with my family. Not to get sucked into the illusion, and then, you know, just put that aside. Working with clients, I think about that just with massage therapy, and they come in, they have a condition, and they talk about it, and they dwell upon it, and, you know, and it's helpful for me to know where they are, where they're stuck. But that's all I really want to know. And then all I have to do after that point is just allow my open up the conduit, or I'm the catalyst, you know, and it just works. And so you can just really get distracted with the conditions. So it's best not to, if you possibly can.
Well, that's our ultimately our work is not to be drawn into the condition. And and we talked about this, you know, do we have to know somebody's name? Do we have to know what the illness is? And, you know, really it's no, you know, we don't. Someone could say, like he was saying in the book here, you know, it doesn't matter if somebody is thousands of miles away from you, or they're sitting with you, or they hear your words and they don't hear your words. You know, if it's the divine, communing with the divine, then everything about the human aspect of it is secondary. And I know you'll see this, and maybe some of you have, if you were at centers and have been around other practitioners, that sometimes somebody will say, oh, well, I have a lot of experience with that. I know what that's like. You know, I'm in recovery too. So, you know, I can really work with you, you know, if you're working with recovery, or I have children too. A practitioner doesn't need to have any similar experience to whoever it is that someone is asking about. We don't have to have any sense of what it's like. We don't have to walk in their shoes or anything in order to be effective, in order to go right into, because everything's done right here, the divine speaking to the divine. I don't remember reading this. And I have to tell you, it just brought tears to my eyes when I read it. Because this wasn't part of the curriculum when I took my practitioner training 30 years ago. And I know I've read parts of this book on and off, but I really it just flooded me with, such emotion, because that's been my experience for 30 years, is that it has nothing to do. And all of these things that I've heard, why don't you work with so-and-so, he's been in recovery, or he's a businessman, he would know, why don't you have a session with him, or, Sue Ellen's an accountant, she really gets money, and she really knows numbers, and she worked with her about abundance. It's like, it's unnecessary, right? If this is true, the divine speaking with the divine, it's unnecessary for us to have any similar experience to anyone regarding what they want to have some healing in. Okay. Rebecca, didn't you have your hand up?
I did. It just made me think of, and I have a lot of employees that sometimes get caught up in the drama, and for some reason I spend a lot of my week as an intermediary between warring factions. And one of the things that I say a lot is, we've got to on this petty stuff here, and we've got to look beyond it to the bigger picture. We've got to look beyond it to where we want to go. And it's what made me think of. I thought of that when I read this, because I thought, in essence, that's what we're doing. We're looking beyond the petty, beyond this petty disagreement. So like in an illness or something, there's a disagreement with your body being whole and perfect. And so we have to look beyond that to, the higher state. And it just resonated with me as being it's a practice that really works in so many aspects of our life, not just in prayer work and healing, but to look beyond the small petty to the bigger picture and where we want to go. And I don't know, that just kind of resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I often say when I'm working with my clients, can you reframe the situation, which is similar to what you're saying? How can you reframe it so that, in other words, bigger picture? Yeah, that's great. Kathy, and then Christine, did you have something you wanted to add again? Or that's from before? Okay, Christine and then Alexandra. I'm sorry. Kathy. I meant Kathy.
Okay. So what I was going to say too is I think some of this goes back to where you reminded us to meet our clients where they're at. And some people, even though that's not where my focus is held, but some people are going to want to hear their name or to hear the name of the person. And so to just meet them where they're at, but that's not where my focus would be.
I always say the person's name when I'm doing a treatment. I mean, if they're sitting there, I'll always speak their name, and I'll always say, and I'm accepting peace, for Sarah, where her friend so-and-so is concerned. I'll mention their name too. I'll mention your mother and your father, whoever. If it's there and it comes forth, it's not an either or thing. It doesn't mean that I'm not in that space of the divine speaking with the divine. It's just being in the realm of what's being called forth for me. I've sat with someone who I've known, I think I shared this with you, I've known for years, someone I've been working with, and their name just isn't there. I don't know where it is because I'm in some other altered state, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I say, and this dear one, or this one, or before me, or whatever I say. So it's really not making it right or wrong to do it either way. It's being aware that it's not necessary for the healing to name it, or to name a person, or to know someone's name. Is somebody says, my aunt is, and I'll just say, oh, okay, so I'm accepting wholeness, for Linda's aunt. So it's knowing, it's just feeling into it, and whatever comes forward out of that, whether it's a name or not a name, or Okay. I said somebody's name next, and I don't remember who it was. well, let's see, Alexandra, I think, and then Deborah. Is this all resonating with you? Because before you leave me this year, I want you to be so clear about what the treatment is, where the treatment takes place, where the prayer takes place, what your part in it is, so that it's so clear to you. I've actually sat in panels, practitioner licensing panels, when we asked the question, you know, who's doing the prayer, where's the prayer take place, and they couldn't answer that question. They couldn't say it begins and ends in our own consciousness. So that's not going to be true for any of you. Go ahead, Alexandra.
I didn't have anything. My hand was up from before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deborah?
Well, I have some questions. This made me think a little bit grander, a little bit bigger. If it only is in my consciousness and I'm not interested in Joe sitting over here, then why would there not be the possibility of spontaneous healing for 1,000 people across the country, across the globe? And if that's a possibility, then and I know this has happened where more people have gotten together, more practitioners, more people of this kind of mind treatment have gotten together and have prayed about the truth about a specific thing. Example, New York, where they were able to almost wipe out crime for a couple of months there, and there was another one in Ethiopia where they managed to make it rain the first time in 30 years. If this is a possibility of the power of into our minds just knowing the truth, why don't we do that more? Why don't we get together and you know, is that something that we do as this CSL organization? I mean, we're out there fixing the world. You know, are we ending poverty? Are we ending hunger? Are we, you know, because we can?
Go, Deborah. It takes someone like you to set the fire. People get complacent, you know, and I think about somebody like James Twyman. Many of you know about his work. He's an author and a musician who has gone to various parts of the world over the years. He used to live near where I live, and I knew him when he was, you know, before he was doing a lot of these things. And he takes people to these zones of, you know, hostility and dangerous places and does prayer work, and then he puts it online and he says, at this time I want you to join us in consciousness. We're going to be here in Syria or wherever he is, and he gathers his whole thousands and thousands of people online to do that prayer and meditation together. So absolutely, Deborah. I mean, that's the whole, you know, remember the TM where they gathered Transcendental Meditation, where they said, we're going to get 10,000 people meditating all at the same time. So, you know, go for it, Deborah. Get us going. Jennifer.
I was just going to add, there's a lot of people doing things like that. I know I have a friend who goes to, she belongs to a group that they get together like 4 times a year and focus on, you know, a specific global issue. And I know another woman who does kind of retreats that's what they're doing. And so I think there's a lot of people in the world that are doing that kind of thing. And it's just finding them and joining in. And like Linda said, a lot of them are online. I participated in James Twyman did a meditation like that when things were hot over in, I think it was Gaza and Israel. And during the time of the meditation that he held for, you know, a certain number of hours or whatever, there was a ceasefire. And so they get results. We should be doing it all the time. It's really about that, you know, pulling ourselves out of the mundane daily life to remember to do that. But there are some practitioners who that's part of their daily practice, is to pick a specific, you know, focus area and pray about that every day.
Yeah. And early on in my practitioner training, my minister, you know, Michael Bethwood, used to say, You have plenty to practice your prayer on. Your news is your list of prayer requests. If you want to watch, if you need a list of prayer requests, turn on the news or read the newspaper. That's your prayer request list. And, there's no shortage of things, and so if you feel very passionate about something, gather a group of people together. It's easy to do that now, right, online, than it probably ever was before. So, okay, I really wanted to bring this piece of the reading to you so that, you have increasing clarity about your prayer work, because I know, as Simon said, you go from center to center and you may hear different things about this. And as I think I shared with you that one of our students from last year, I went with her to her panels in Temecula, because I was serving on the panels and she was taking her panel. I was on different one that she was on. And the panel didn't pass her the first time because she did not mention the condition that the person asked her to pray for. It was, you'll see when you get into your panels, they're going to ask you to do a treatment for somebody on the panel. They're going to say, this is a prayer request I have. And because she didn't say something about this person's jaw or whatever it was, they told her when they brought her back in, that is why they didn't pass her, because she didn't mention the specific condition. Of course, the rest of us there were like, what? And fortunately, because I was there and I talked to the minister who was organizing the whole thing, I said, this is one of our star students. I said, you need to repanel her with a different panel. So they did, and they came out going, oh my God, she's wonderful. She's so ready to be a practitioner. We loved her consciousness. She's amazing. So I just say that to you for awareness. And I want you to know that as long as you're clear inwardly, you'll always stay tethered and connected to what is yours to do and what is yours to say, right? Have anything else you want to say about that, Katie? Okay. All right. So, anything else about light or these quotes or the reading? Or Lance, you said you were really moved. Is there anything else you wanted to bring forward from the reading that really was exciting and interesting and inspiring for you?
No, I think more or less we've kind of covered it here. Nothing leaps out at me right now. No.
Okay.
Well, one thing I can say, Linda, is you were talking about not being connected to the condition. In fact, I've just had this experience recently where someone I was asked to pray with had the exact same condition that I had. And it was not a very good session. And what I found was that my ego kind of I wanted to fix her because of all the things I knew about this one particular thing that she was going through. And so it was like unfortunately, it was a huge, hammer in the head saying, okay, you've got to just really, every single time you walk in to those sessions, you need to be just leaving your ego at the door, leaving your personality, leaving your past, leaving all of that behind you. Because, the sessions that I've known, again, absolutely nothing about what somebody might be going through have really been the most powerful. So I can't reiterate enough what Linda said.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so as you might have seen, we're going to do something called a mind expander exercise, and it's just sort of to lighten things up a little bit. This is a pretty, intense discussion and material from this week, and so gives you a chance. It's a little bit of, it's what it says. It's a mind expander. So what we're going to do, we're going to break into groups in just a moment. And you'll have about 10 minutes with your group to work on the, let's see, how many are there? Did you all get a chance to print out the sheets, I hope? If not, somebody in your group, you know, will work together. So there's five mind expanders, and they're puzzles basically, and you know, they want you to think out of the box. So we're going to ask, these have been around, so we're going to ask those of you who might know the answers from doing them to wait for the rest of your group to have a chance to work on it first. And it's fun, and so the whole idea is thinking out of the box. So you're going to go into your groups for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the solutions to the puzzles. And then I will also open up the answers in the Moodle page so that you can print those out as well, or refer to them afterwards. Okay, so you're going to go into your groups, have a little fun and lightheartedness for a while. All right, so let me get you into breakout rooms. So I was going to have 4 rooms. See you in a while. Christine, did you not get an invitation? Well, you're on mute, honey.
Okay, I think I figured out what I did wrong here. Okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so there's 2 in there now. When she comes in, there'll be 3, which is fine.
Okay.
Oh, fun.
There she goes.
Okay, so that was 6:51. Yeah, I mean, I just think they like hanging out with each other.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think that's really the only way this kind of class can work, you know, this size. It would have just been difficult.
Well, I mean, this is a real testimony to, wait a minute, I thought I paused the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in both cases, I would say it was brought on by just a higher awareness of a situation that, you know, would be kind of icky and you know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's about time to end, and Marcia, I know, had to work late, but I just would like to invite your beautiful voice in the room to see if you wanted to say or share anything.
I'm so brain dead. So I'm going to pass, except to say I'm glad I was able to rush home to see everybody's lovely face and have these moments of unity as I hear the benediction. But I don't think I could put a coherent, meaningful sentence together right now. So thank you.
Well, I did record the class, and it'll be going out because I now know how to embed videos and up. I didn't even have a YouTube account before Simon left for, you know, his trip. So I was on a steep learning curve and a crash course before he left. So it'll go on, and hopefully it won't be in 4 parts. Maybe it'll just be in 1.
You'll be a millennial before you know it, Linda.
Oh my God. Any other sharing from tonight? Anything that wants to be said? I know Leanne's ready to do our benediction. Just wanted to see if there's anything else anybody feels moved to share before we go on our way. All right. Thank you all for your contributions. And go ahead, Leanne.
Okay. So close your eyes and take a deep breath of gratitude as we close out this class 23, this mystical experience we've had together. I am so grateful to have shared this class with you. I am so grateful to have listened as the light of God and Spirit shines through us so clearly. May the blessing of our spiritual growth in this class expand and enlighten our path as we move forward. There is definitely a light at the center of us all, and it shines brightly. As we surrender to the truth of who we are, we become more and more of who we are meant to be. And with that, I let it go and I say, so it is.
So it is. Beautiful, Leanne. Doesn't everybody come off mute and say goodbye? And I'll be hanging out in the room for a while if anybody wants to stay.
Yay, I made it.
Good night, everyone.
Blessings.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Everybody stay healthy.
Have a great trip, Sharon, and just knowing you're going to be healthy for your trip to your wedding.
Thanks. I bought some masks so I can not get the entire plane infected.
Oh, jeez.
That's so thoughtful of you.
It is very
you know, and my niece. The last thing I want is my niece to be, by Friday